We have an amazing exclusive for you guys here today. Joining us is a man that is the reigning undisputed champion of balloon art. You can see his work at many of the Comic-Cons around and wrestling events near you. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. PoppinTwist.
Hi.
How's it going?
Oh, it's going great. Thank you for having me on.
For those of you who are listening right now, check out our Facebook, our Instagram, our Twitter. It's been blowing up. This gentleman is the Picasso of balloons, I guess, is what we'll call him.
That's what Nick Foley calls me, yeah.
Oh, so. Wow. So it's amazing work. It really is. So I have to ask you, how's the balloon biz treating you these days, to start with?
Oh, you know what? It's treating me fine. I could always do a little better, but who couldn't? But I'm doing all right. It's been a blessing for me over the last number of years.
All right. Now I've got to ask you, because this is the first time we're chatting. I've seen your work all over the place, and it's just so impressive. But how did this begin? Did you pick this up as a child, or was this later on in life? How did you get interested into doing this?
Okay, well, I mean, the balloons have been. I've always been interested in them, but I never really picked them up until a few years back. I'm basically a vaudevillian at heart. I'm a musical theater performer, an improv comedian. I've been on stage, multiple stages, over 25 different productions in my life, and I've been an actor and an entertainer. But about 4.5 years, actually no, a little longer, about 6 years ago, I guess, we were at a birthday party with my son, and there was a balloon twister at the party, and my son was 4 years old, and he was watching the balloon twister, and he stood still and just watched him for an hour and a half. Now, I don't know if you know much about 4-year-olds, they don't stand still for long, and I was just astounded by that. So my wife was expecting our second child at the time, and I was in between jobs. I was working in TV, and my contract had ended, so I had a little bit of free time on my hands. So we walked into the mall one day, and I bought one of those little bags of balloons with a little pump in it. Little booklet had like 12 different simple balloon designs in it, and he and I learned them all in a weekend. And we really loved it, and he really enjoyed it. So we found a guy not too far away from us who had beginning balloon classes, and we took his class. And his name is John Reed. He's a amazingly gifted balloon artist and magician. And he says to this day that my son is the youngest person he ever taught to twist a balloon at 4 years old. So and we loved it, and that's how. And it's just one of those things. It just the passion. I didn't know the passion was there, and it just happened to be there. It was like I wanted to learn more stuff. I wanted to make more stuff. And I tell people I can't draw and I can't paint, but I can make stuff out of balloons. So that's how I started making things like wrestlers and Power Rangers and superheroes. The things that I can't draw that I love, I can make them in balloon form, and it gets it out of my head, in that way.
So what is like you just mentioned? I've seen wrestlers. I've seen, and I urge everybody to look you up on Facebook. You've got some amazing stuff on there. What do you think is the hardest balloon creation that you've created so far?
Oh, I mean, it's the thing I've learned in balloons is it's always the detail kills me. I'm a detail freak, and I will sit there and I will go over and over again. I'll even pop balloons and rebuild it just so I can make it look the way I need it to look. There are things in balloons that I don't like the simple things, some people say simple. Like there are things like SpongeBob and Minnie Mouse and Mickey Mouse. Those drive me crazy. I can't do those fast, but I could rip out a Randy Orton in about 10.5 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But so yeah, a lot of those things, a lot of characters that some people find easier to do. I can't. I'm trying to find faster ways to do them. I can do them, but not fast enough. If I'm working a party, or if I'm working an event somewhere, and they ask me for it, it's going to really slow my line down if I'm doing something that takes a longer amount of time to do. But yeah, those are definitely the harder ones. And instead, just finding those details and making it look like who it's supposed to look like. The best compliment I get is that people can look at my balloon and they'll know who it is without me telling them first who I made. That means I've done my job.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you who haven't seen it yet, like I said, I urge you to get on all of our sites to check them out. But you got my beard down just absolutely perfect. I showed it to my girlfriend / fiance. I don't like using that word fiance, but
intended.
Yes, and she said that it looked just like me, and we're both full of hot air. So I think you definitely have a new fan with that. But so I have to ask, a lot of people within the wrestling world community, fan-wise, really are appreciative of stuff like this, I think, because wrestling's sometimes looked at as like a lower art form, whatever you want to say. But like, you have Rob Schamberger now, who's painting these amazing portraits.
Absolutely.
I mentioned, I spoke to you, Box Brown, an amazing gifted cartoonist that's doing this. You're doing these balloons. How has the reception been from like fans and wrestlers alike? Is everybody really excited about these?
Well, I'll tell this story in two parts. The people who I've made the balloons of are very receptive, and they're very excited. I've had balloons retweeted by Jerry Lawler, Stephanie McMahon, Chris Jericho, Sheamus. I mean, they're active on Twitter. I've had people retweet them, which is awesome. It's a great honor to me. I get jazzed every time it happens. I was lucky enough about a month and a half ago to get a photo gallery on WWE.com, and they posted about 30 balloons of my balloons on WWE.com, and in a photo gallery, which was awesome. But then the response to that was kind of funny, because for every person who said, "These are great," I had a person say, "You're what's wrong with the wrestling world today."
I guess everyone's a critic, but I really don't understand it, because I think that it's one of those things that they look at it and they say, "Oh, well, anybody could do that," and it's not the case. But I think that at the end of the day, you're doing something positive for not only wrestling fans, but artists as well. And I definitely appreciate the work. So you send.
Oh, thank you so much.
You send them to me, and I'll set them straight. I'll twist them like a balloon. I'm gonna cut a promo on them.
Well, the best part of it has honestly been just the reception of the subjects, and people like there's an old story. I don't know if you know the actor. His name is Stephen Tobolowsky. Stephen Tobolowsky has been in countless films, small roles, larger roles. The thing he's most known as is Ned from Groundhog Day.
Okay. Yep.
Ned Ryerson from Groundhog Day. That's the role that everyone knows him as the most. And he talks about it in one of his books. He says that to make it in the entertainment industry, you have to have no less than 3 angels, which means you have to have no less than 3 people who like what you're doing enough to put themselves out there on your behalf.
Absolutely.
And when it comes to balloons and wrestling, I've already had 2, so I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah.
I mean, the first one would be independent wrestler Len Oddity. He's the first balloon wrestler I ever made. And it was a perfect marriage between tattooed ugly Len Oddity character and making him out of balloons. He dug it, and it was a partnership that we still have to this day. When he's in the area, I'm there and I'm making balloons, based on whatever character he's ripping off that, as far as what idea he's bringing out that day. And obviously the Mick Foley connection has been the greatest. The greatest gift I've had with my, in the wrestling fandom, as far as that's concerned.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, more people get in touch with you. It's an amazing thing, because, when I'm from the Midwest, I say it pretty much every time that we're talking to somebody, and my growing up was different. I'm now on the East Coast, so it was a totally different thing. But
sure,
to see how far, I guess, balloon art has come. My God! The poodle, or the dinosaur, or whatever. The sword was also another one. But I would have loved to have these things growing up, and I still love them now. So it's just amazing. But speaking of growing up, were you a fan of wrestling growing up?
Oh God, yeah. I tell people all the time. I've been a fan of wrestling since War to Settle the Score. I go back that far. I grew up watching the WWF. I grew up watching all the Superstation stuff on Saturdays at 6:05. I've been around it. I'm a fan of it my whole life. I really have.
So, is there somebody that you haven't got to create that was maybe one of your favorites growing up that you're thinking about going to like make into balloon art?
Yeah, the fun thing about it is I've hit a lot of my favorites because every year for the last 2 years I've done it. I do a Road to WrestleMania series on my social media, and I pretty much do a wrestler a day for a month leading up to WrestleMania. So you'd be surprised how many wrestlers you burn through when when you have to make a wrestler a day for 30 days. You get a lot of your favorites out of the way. I take requests online. I do wrestlers pretty much by request. People all over the world have sent me requests from through Twitter or Instagram. There's actually a kid who's waiting for Batista. I've not done it yet. I've been a little bit busy. So one day I'll get Batista done for this kid. He'll be very happy because he keeps asking on Instagram. So I haven't forgotten about him. I just have to I haven't done Batista yet, but no. I mean, I've done my favorites. I'm a huge Booker T fan from way back. So I did a Booker T. I'll probably do an updated Booker T. Just because I did him a little while ago, and when you work on things enough, you get better. So I'm better now than I was 2 years ago when I did it the first time. So so I'll probably work at a new Booker T. But no, I've done pretty much all my favorites. I've done Sting. I've done Bret Hart. I've done Roddy Piper for Roddy Piper, which was awesome. And just to see their faces when I give it to them is the best gift in the whole world.
Absolutely. I've been looking through a lot of yours, and I had followed you, I think, right around the time that you started the WrestleMania series, and I saw one of my favorites, an Andy Kaufman, which was just amazing. So I applaud you for that. Now I may be
thank you.
I may be wrong. Have you created my favorite wrestler of all time yet? Have you created a Ravishing Rick Rude?
I have not done Ravishing Rick Rude, and I'll tell you why. The airbrushing on the tights scares me.
Yes, absolutely. I figured that would be a difficult one. So
my art skills are okay. I'm getting better with a Sharpie marker, but there are certain characters that I'm very, very just certain things I'm nervous about. The airbrush tights for Ravishing Rick Rude were part of his look. So I'd have to really figure out a way to fake that.
Yeah, well, I have no doubt if anybody could do it, it would be you. So
all right, I will take the challenge.
Okay, perfect. Now I'm giving tips here like I'm the artist, but I'm telling you, some of his earlier tights just had like kind of a stripe through them, so like you could do maybe like 2-color balloons there, like. He didn't get into the airbrushing right away. If you look at some of the older ones, you can see that. But obviously, you got to go for the airbrushing if you're gonna do it. But,
I'm learning. You have to go with the classic looks, the looks that everyone knows, and it helps draw that comparison a little easier.
Another good one that I think would be great, just because I remember the rubber bands coming out of his face, would be a Captain Lou.
Captain Lou, yeah, I didn't even think about that. I should totally try to do one of those.
Yeah, no, these are great. Have you mentioned? I know that you were at Ringside Fest. Was it last year?
Yes, last year. Yeah, and I should be most likely back this year too.
Okay, perfect. Because I'm pretty sure that either one or both of us will be at Ringside Fest this year too. But
awesome!
Have you found like people? Have they been wanting to bring you into wrestling events, or have you not really crossed into that yet?
I'll tell you, I'm getting there. When I first started doing wrestling events, I was doing stuff. I'm based out here on Long Island in New York.
Okay.
So I was doing the locals, and I still have the locals. FTW Wrestling, ECPW, NYWC. SWA. What happens more often than not is I'll get hooked up with a wrestler, and then the wrestler himself will bring me into the show.
That's awesome.
That's kind of how it's worked. With guys like Len, Nightmare, Earl Cooter, things like that. and then every time I do a show, I meet one, I network, I meet one more guy, and that just gets me to the next level, which is great. I did FWE wrestling, which was fantastic.
Yes.
They did a show in Queens, and I did a show, and that was awesome. And I booked that job on a Sting balloon. So hey, it all works out. Ringside Fest. Basically, that came about because of my McFoley connection.
Mm-hmm.
People from Ringside Fest were coming to his shows, and I work his shows locally. So they saw my work then, and they inquired if I'd be interested. I was like, I'd be absolutely interested. And so I had an opportunity to Ringside Fest, which was great. I'm looking forward to going back. The people over at Ringside Wrestling Figs, they are awesome, all of them.
Yeah, it's really a great show, and if if people haven't been to it and they've gone to any other wrestling signing, it's very well done. They always have great talent, and obviously they brought you in, so that's amazing. Now,
my job with them is the same job I had with Mick. It's just line control. I'm just there to entertain people who are waiting in line so they don't get cranky.
Yeah, they do a pretty good job because, like I said, if you get there early enough and they bring you inside, which I've been to some signings where it's about 12 below or raining torrentially. So yeah, it's a great thing. But now I have to ask this question, and I don't know, maybe you haven't thought about it, maybe you have. You've been on WWE.com. You've been involved with Mick Foley's shows. Do you have any other goals to set with your art, like the Guinness Book of World Records, or is there anything that you're really shooting for in the coming years with this art?
Now it's funny. I come from a performer background, so my goals are pretty much to keep performing. I just and trying to get a bigger and better audience every time I do. That's I have a friend that I mentioned before, John Reed. He actually set a record last year with the biggest balloon sculpture by one person. It's amazing. You can look him up at Epic Balloons on Instagram, and so I look at those and I look at what people are doing. I'm like, you know what? That's amazing, and one day I might get to that, but right now I'm just happy to try to make the most detailed guy I can in a 2.5 to 3 foot form, and try to work a niche that no one has ever really worked before. Balloons, balloon art and pro wrestling, has never really been a thing. The other thing I do is like other conventions. There are other guys who do conventions, but I'm kind of getting to a point where Mr. PoppinTwist is something people know and they recognize. And my goal, I guess, professionally, would be to be a draw. That's that someone would go, hey, this would be a good show. It'd be a better show if Mr. Poppin were here. I mean, it's as simple as that.
Well, I think that you're well on your way to that. I think that it's one of those things that it's unique, and that's what always 5 years ago, wrestling T-shirts, the only places you could buy them were at wrestling store or like the wrestling events, and then barbershop window came along, and and then all these shirt places started popping up. So right now you've got the market cornered on these wrestling balloons, which I think is awesome. But other than wrestling, you mentioned Power Rangers earlier. What are some of the other creations that you've made?
I mean, I like to work. I like to work in pop culture, but I like to work in like obscure pop culture. Because if you make something that like here's a good example I have. Like just recently, I made a balloon based on Eric Roberts' character from the film Best of the Best.
Yes.
Alex Grady, and I posted that balloon on my Facebook page and all my social media, and in response to that was a conversation stream of about 30 or 40 different people quoting lines from that movie. They were all guys, because not one girl really knows what Best of the Best is.
Yep.
In my experience. And then I had the opportunity to show him that balloon and make it for him, and he was so, he was so appreciative. And it's like, that's the kind I like to create. Like I've made like the Greatest American Hero. I've made Meteor Man. I've made Bluegrass from Silverhawks. Like these are the characters that I grew up with, but most people don't really know who they are. and it's, unless you're a fan of Silverhawks or a fan of this show or a fan of that show, you're not going to get the reference. So I love to work in that, and that's why Power Rangers is fun too, because there's so many different looks and different characters. And when when you're in my line of work, you always try to find the hot new thing, because you're going to get asked to make that for at least about a year. When Frozen came out, I'm making 10,000 Elsas and Annas and Olafs, and I'm still doing that. But before that, it was something else. So I really enjoy kind of just playing around in the pop culture vein, and I'm a big figure guy, so I like to make the characters and not necessarily ships or other things like that.
Now you said you're a big figure person.
Yes.
Are you a collector?
I used to be more of a collector. I've been married for quite a number. I got married in 2001, and I have 2 children. So over time, these the finances that are required to sustain a collection dwindle and go somewhere else, and then the collection itself dwindles. But I have a small but eclectic figure collection. I'm a Green Arrow fan. Probably one of my favorite. He probably is my favorite DC character. Which is it's sad because I don't actually watch the show. I one day promised to start watching the show, but as far as the comic book, I'm a big fan of the character. So I have a number of Green Arrow pieces from over the years. I have some pro wrestlers. I have but I have to be in the vein. Like, one of my favorite figures I still have to this day, my wife bought for me. It's the Eugene figure from a few years back. My wife works with the disabled community, and it was so fun because Eugene was about as respectful a character to that community as you could possibly get. And my wife loved him because of that, and I loved him because of that. And so it's probably my favorite figure that I own is this Eugene figure, because it just meant a lot, for me as a fan, and my wife, as the wife of a fan, basically.
Yeah.
But and I have, go ahead.
No, I was just, I was wondering, with this guy, you mentioned that whenever you were talking about the Eric Roberts, that a lot of guys, messaged you. And was that, is it a shock to you that, because this kind of work, I guess, would lend itself, you would think, more towards kids, but you've gotten response from every type of person, right?
Oh yeah. I tell people when I work parties, for example. I'm first and foremost a party entertainer. I'm brought in for any. As I say to people, I'm brought into any kind of party that would use a balloon, and sometimes where you don't think they would fit, I still fit.
Yeah.
And it's fun. And I'll ask people also, how many balloon-wanting individuals will be at the party? And they go, oh, well, we have about 12 kids. I'm like, that's great. How many balloon-wanting individuals will come to the party? And they'll stop and go, what do you mean? I said, because adults count too.
Yep.
I can't count the number of times I go to a party and a kid is sent over for a balloon for their mom. Oh, my grandma wants to have a ladybug, and I'm like, well, tell grandma to come get a ladybug. I'm not going to laugh at her. I'm 41 years old. I do this for a living. I love balloons, and so I don't see why someone else couldn't love them too.
I have to ask, and I'm sure as you've been doing this for a while, that tons of people have asked you about this. The scene on Wedding Crashers. Has anyone ever asked you to make a bike for them?
Oh my God! If I had a nickel for every time I get that switch, I could retire as a balloon twister.
Oh my God!
I make the joke. I didn't know. I'll tell a fun story.
Yeah.
Because it kind of locks into the bicycle thing. I didn't make a bicycle, and yes, I would get that joke, and I would laugh it off, and I would go, "Aha, Wedding Crashers fan, huh?" And I would just play it off. About a couple of years ago, my wife, someone she works with, asked me to make 100 balloon bicycles as giveaways for a charity bike ride on the island. And I was like, oh, she volunteered me and then told me I was doing it. So I was like, oh, okay, great. I guess I should learn a bicycle. So I figured out a bicycle that I liked, and it looked like a bicycle, and I'm very happy about it. I started making them. And when I got to about 40 of them, I realized that's all that was going to fit in my car. And I had to drive 2.5 hours to the end of the race. So I had to then call the organizer, the guy who booked me, and said, I'm not going to pull this off. He's like, no, it's okay. We decided it wasn't going to work out anyway, but thank you anyway. But after 40 balloon bicycles, you learn to go. You can pretty much get a handle on how to make one. So now, when someone makes that joke at a party, I say, "Do you really want to have a bicycle?" And they're like, and I'm like, look, if you're making a joke, I'm cool with the joke. We can laugh about it. But if you want the bike, I'll make you one. Because I learned the bicycle to shut up schmucks just like you.
Yep, absolutely. That's the greatest. That's the greatest thing ever. I don't think I would have done it in person, but I had to know, because that's really. I'm trying to think of other pop culture scenes where they do something with balloon animals, and I know that there are a few that probably aren't appropriate, but
the pop culture balloons really. I mean, if you think about it, you really have two things. Steve Martin's comedy routines from the '70s.
Yep.
And then bringing that back into parenthood with your lower intestine.
Yep.
That Steve Martin is attached to it in that way, and the Vince Vaughn from Wedding Crashers. Other than that, they get around, but they're not to the level of quotable lines. I mean, that's I hear your lower intestine all the time from people, and I hear make me a bicycle clown. So.
I think that there was one, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm sure someone's going to do the same thing and say you're an idiot or whatever, but there was one in The Mask. I think Jim Carrey did something.
Oh, yeah.
But that's about as far as it goes. But
I forgot about that. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about wrestling. We've talked a little about pop culture. Do you have any specific projects of yours that are coming up?
Well, I mean, I'm going to be appearing at Long Island Con, which is a science fiction show. You can find them online. Long Island Con 2. I'll be appearing there in 2 weeks. I guess the 13th, 14th, or 14th, 15th, 16th of August. I'll be there as far as pop culturally, and then I'm on tap with the guys from Ringside to be back when they schedule that. Rumor has it it's sometime in October. I'm working my networks. I'm trying to get something going for SummerSlam because it's local.
Yep.
I'm like, I would love to, I'm gonna be, I'm 45 minutes away. I would, the closing of the Nassau Coliseum didn't help me. My timing was kind of bad in that regard, but.
Yes.
But yeah, no. So I'm working on that, and other than that, I'm just doing what I do. I got a couple of some more giveaways and more contests I'm working out in the future. I'm trying to work out probably coming up soon. I'm going to do a create Mr PoppinTwist T-shirt contest. Because I figure with there's so many different people in my fan base from different walks of life and love different things. I'm wondering what they can come up with. So I'm curious to see what happens. I have one shirt in mind that if I get the gumption up to design it, I'll design it maybe just for me. But basically, the T-shirt I want to do is a very a classic '80s iron-on print of me, maybe even holding a balloon wrestling belt on the front and on the back with my gigantic Ric Flair / rock-inspired catchphrase. Other than that, I have no idea.
That's awesome. I think you're going to get some pretty amazing, submissions for that, I would say.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
So, other than balloon, I have to ask you, do you have any influences as far as art goes? I know that you said you can't really draw that well, but I don't really, I don't believe it. I think that you're being modest, but do you have special people that you you like?
I make the joke that I love and respect everything that I can't do, and that's a lot of things. But it's true. I mean, I in comic books, my favorite artist of all time is George Perez. I was raised on his stuff. I've had the opportunity to meet him a number of times, and it just makes me like him more. I mean, but I've always loved George Perez's work. And as far as paintings are concerned, I've always been a fan of Rembrandt and photorealistic, painting styles. And who doesn't love Bob Ross? You know, I mean, Billy. I mean, comic book wise. I mean, I live my whole life. I live my whole life reading, comic books. I've written some. I have, partners I've worked with in the past. So I can reel off comic book artists all day long that have inspired and influenced me. Balloon wise, I mean, there's like I said, like John Reed and Buster Balloon, and there's some, a lot of the things I see coming out of Japan and Korea. They do amazing things in China. My life in general is I try to find inspiration in pretty much anything, and that comes from my acting, because I'll see a bad movie, a quote unquote bad movie, but I try to find something good in any movie or any TV show that I see, even if it's a well crafted line, a well delivered scene. It could be the rest of the movie could be crap, but if I like just how one guy said something, the movie has already gone up 3 notches in my estimation, because there's always something. I try to find something positive in everything I see.
Awesome. And I guess, do you ever feel like, I don't want to say you've pigeonholed yourself, because I don't think that's the case, but do you feel like that you will branch out at some point, or do you like where you're at with the balloons?
No, I mean, where I'm at with the balloons right now, is great. I mean, I'm in my 5th professional year with balloons. Every year has been better than the year before. I've got more exposure, and I get more name. I don't advertise pretty much anywhere, which is awesome. When I get a gig from somewhere, it's word of mouth, or they saw me somewhere in a street fair. My reputation is pretty much my number one thing. So I really like, I love that can carry me on that way. I mean, don't get me wrong. I would love. I mean, like I've made jokes. I would love to see Mr. Poppin just show up at a pay-per-view. Who wouldn't? I mean, I've been a wrestling fan my whole life. I've been, a hair's breadth away from being at a wrestling school 3 times in my life. I got close a couple of times to go, but I'm like, you know what? I think I enjoy watching it, more than I enjoy getting, tossed around. But but yeah, I mean, I would love to be able to take the things that I do, the improv, the storytelling, the acting, the performance, the balloons. I'd love to be able to mesh them all together into one thing. That would be great, because that would make a lot of different parts of my personality very happy.
Well, I definitely think that, hopefully if you are listening to this right now, please let's get this going. Hashtag Mr. PoppinTwist on Raw. Hashtag Mr. PoppinTwist on PPV. Let's really get this going. You're an amazing artist, and I don't throw that around a lot. I appreciate you coming on and talking to us. I know you're busy, and but before you go, please let us know if people are listening to this, they want to either book you for a party or they want you to come to their next wrestling show. How do they go about doing that?
All right. Well, before I say anything, I'll say this fun thing. When I got to WWE.com photo gallery, I got contacted from people all over the country, and they were saying, "Can you mail a balloon to me?" And so sadly, no. I haven't found a way to really make it work without popping, so I can't ship anything. But you're more than welcome to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or online, and I branded myself so that everything is the same. Instagram is Mr. PoppinTwist. Twitter is at Mr. PoppinTwist. My Facebook is Facebook / Mr. PoppinTwist, and my online presence is www.mrpoppintwist.com. So pretty much, if you Google Mr. PoppinTwist, you'll find me from somewhere.
Awesome. Now, I know that obviously I had to pull some strings with some very important people to get some balloons made of us, but you usually say that you do kind of try to do commissions online?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take these fun things happen. Like, I met an actress at Comic-Con it was about 2 years ago. No, actually, yeah, it was 2 years ago. And I had promised her a balloon, and then so actually, I've name dropped all day. Should I name drop some more?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll name drop some more. So Seth Green, the actor. I'm sure we know who he is.
Yes.
Seth Green and his lovely wife Claire Grant. I met them both at Comic-Con, and I tweeted out to her at one point, hey, I'm looking for inspiration. What should I make a balloon of? And so she said, make a unicorn making out with the robot chicken underneath a rainbow. I went, okay, challenge accepted. And so I proceeded. So I did that. That you could. It's somewhere. I believe it's on my Instagram. I know it's on my Facebook page. The picture of that. And I did a My Little Pony inspired unicorn canoodling with the robot chicken under a rainbow. And from that, the actress Meredith Salinger, who you might remember from Journey of Natty Gann or Dream a Little Dream in the 80s, and then she was also the deputy sheriff in Lake Placid, who hung out with Oliver Platt a lot in that movie.
Yes.
Yeah, so I've been a fan. I had a crush on Natty Gann. She was the same, that was where I was at that point in my life. So it was so awesome. So she tweets me and she goes, "I love your stuff. Could you possibly make a balloon for my niece for her birthday?" And I said, Meredith, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong coast. And she goes, "Could you just take a picture and send it? I'd be happy to. What can I do for you?" And she said, "Could you make Hello Kitty in a karate gi?" I went, yeah, okay. So I made a Hello Kitty in a karate gi and took a nice picture and sent it to her, and she said thank you so much. She ended up printing out the photo, cutting it out, and putting it in a birthday card for her niece. So that's probably the longest distance commission I've ever had for a balloon that I never actually had a chance to deliver in person.
Well, like I said, I'm going through it right now. I'm on the Instagram. I can't tell you how impressive Joey Ryan's chest hair is. You nailed that one. You got Paul Heyman. You've got Spock. You've got Captain America, Jake the Snake. I can go on forever. These are amazing. Check him out, Mr. PoppinTwist. We want to thank you so much for coming on today. And I think we've only scratched the surface. I'm stealing a line from my partner Steve, but I think we'll definitely have to get you back on. And then who knows? Maybe there'll be a partnership at some point. We may be bringing you in somewhere to do some balloons for us because. Oh
my gosh, that'd be amazing. It would be a great time.
Yes, absolutely. Once again, at Mr. Poppintwist, thank you so much for coming on today, and just keep it up because it's exactly what I think wrestling and wrestling fans need.
Well, thank you very much.